Well, hello and welcome. We are continuing with a little bit more of workers and resources. Last episode, I can't remember exactly where I left you off, but this time around, I took some time in between, and I think it's been like a few months at least, and I really sort of built out and tried to prettify things and tried to really establish the direction so that I would have some things to show you. Let me also get us a little bit of music. There's no one actually watching these, but if any of you, who might see it later, has a suggestion for some music that would be fun to add, please just throw it down in a comment. I'll probably see it, maybe. Let's see here. Not that one. Yeah, I can live with this. Alright. Yeah. Yeah, that'll do. Alright, now. Okay, let's take a look here. One of the things I did was I built a whole lot of train lines. So I built a depot here. I built a train line from our our food factory down to the town so that we can actually bring food into the city more efficiently to distribute to the grocery stores. And then I also built a train line so that we can export food, because food is actually one of the most valuable exports along with alcohol and fuel. Then I built this other train line so that we can transport coal. I built a coal mine. I built a passenger station to supply people to the coal mine. I built a coal ore refinery. And here are some conveyor belt systems that I built that will add to an aggregate loading station for trains, as well as aggregate storage and this aggregate car loading. So basically, on top of that, that more or less handles all of the trains that I added. I also added a little short passenger route serviced by a motor car between this train station and this tiny one that I set up next to the new power plant. Coal goes here and is into the storage area before it moves into the power plant. And then to supply the power plant with people consistently, I built this little village kind of situation here, a suburb. I mean, this is traditionally how suburbs before highways would actually be built. Where there was industry next to the actual train stations. I need to give them a movie theater, but we'll see when I get around to that. I built, obviously, this passenger station, and I'm going to go over in a minute how to actually set up the passing lanes and the success and failures that I've had with the signal system. I added a whole bunch of schools because the thing is that I built up all of these, housing units, and I got all this population in, and they all decided to have kids and bring their kids in at around the same time. So I'm currently going through a huge population wave of like 2,000 children that all needed to go to school. So there's like kindergartens and schools everywhere right now. Currently they're not that full, so let that be a lesson to the wise, that you don't necessarily want to build up in a massive expansion of people all at once, unless you also want to deal with a whole bunch of children all at once. On top of that, I also, as you might have noticed, built into these what will be the center square of Vorstock, and I built the Technical University, and I've just been letting it research. It researches pretty fast. I think I'm going to need to edit the research time because, honest to God, I can now build factories to construct vehicles. I can now produce chemicals, make fabrics. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Like, the only thing I can't currently do is electronic circuits. And that's just because I'm not feeling like clicking it. Because I know that I can't actually set up the systems necessary to supply that yet. But I put up these 2 dormitories. They're currently empty, but earlier I had like 40 people in one of them, and I had to move them into one of the apartment buildings. Trying to think what else. Along with obviously building a power station, I also tried to clean up our power grid a bit. So I looked into it and, oh, I did not fix this one. One of the things that is pretty important to efficiently managing your power usage is not just using the largest medium voltage wire possible, because it will pull that much power to its substations and drain your power much less efficiently. You know, you're going to be mostly wanting to use large amounts of your high voltage to ring around areas, and then going into the areas you want your medium voltage, and you want that medium voltage to split into finer and finer grains of medium voltage as you know, you get closer to your destinations. In this case, I set up with the smallest wattage, capacity wire, a little bit further than I normally would, but it's fine, and there's only like one thing over at this end that needs power, so that's how that worked out. I'm building boards, and as you might have noticed, I also built this giant facility over here. So we get the coal, we get the gravel, and then we get the money, and then we get the power, and then we get the pussy. But we take the quarried stone here, we turn it into gravel, we grind that up, we turn that into cement, and then we turn the cement into concrete here, and we also turn the cement into prefabricated panels right here with some extra gravel along the way. And then we ship that down by train to this station. And I also am putting the boards into this. It should not be getting wood though. That looks like there's been some sort of error. Where are you? Uh-oh. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't want that. I want you to actually go and feed that to this sawmill that I've got over here. I don't understand. Why is that not being turned into boards? There's no workers. Yeah, well, I figured that. But, there are plenty of workers within walking distance. Okay, let's see here. Obviously, let me just build this, because I know that distance might be a contributing factor in where they decide to work. Also, I'm gonna need to move this transformer. That's the worst placement for it. It takes up so much useful land. I'll do that in a minute. Let's see here. Residential buildings. You know what? Let's not auto build this. I'll need to buy a little bit of steel, but I've got concrete. I've got prefab panels. I've got gravel. I don't have asphalt. Shit. I don't have asphalt. Yeah, and I don't have bricks yet. I was gonna build that next, but that's gonna require me to build a whole new facility up here because it's gonna use coal in large quantities. So I'll just build one of these tiny, prefabs right here. And you know what? I'll see if I can import the asphalt, but I have this bad feeling like importing asphalt is weird. Great. I need an excavator. Do I not have one available? Handy? Handy dandy? No, he's busy doing this construction. Well, let's see how far they get along with this. I totally forgot that this was still being done. Shit. I don't think you can import asphalt. Yeah, you need an asphalt plant. For steel and bricks, get it from here. I'll just import them for now. Mechanical components, I put some in there for now. Okay, so that just leaves asphalt. Now, the problem with asphalt is that I don't want to have to pay to import a whole bunch of bismuth. Fuck. Alright. We can put up with that. Bitumen, sorry, not bismuth. Slightly different. Plastics factory, chemical plant. And those are only available to me because I researched them, but let's see here. Alright, let me see how much bitumen costs at the moment. Bitumen, bitumen, bitumen. Oh, God. Bitumen costs more than fuel. Oh, shit. Like twice as much. Oh, fuck. I didn't know it was that much. Shit. I would have, oh, damn. Okay. Well, I mean, there's honestly no point to trying to build a whole oil exportation system yet, just because I can't supply an oil refinery with people yet, and that's going to be a big expense, and I've got negative income at the moment, right? Mostly from fuel, though. Mostly from fuel. Why am I importing any food? You there. Good. Now, I'm just gonna add another truck on that route just to make sure nothing untoward happens vis-a-vis that grocery store. Because if people starve on my hands, that would not be good. Currently, How many people have died? I know I can see that somewhere. Deaths, 7. Yeah. Escapes is 0. I don't like it being called escapes. I actually think it's pretty bullshit. Births. Eek. Couple thousand. Mostly a few deaths here and there. It's pretty sporadic. Everyone's got clothes. I don't know why pub alcohol is so low. Everyone's got access to a pub. You've got a pub somewhere. Yeah, you've got one right here. Alright, so don't give me that. Alright, there are 4 bar staff there and there are 2 guests, so I don't know why you'd be complaining. Losers. Here, same thing, I don't know why you'd be complaining. There are plenty of schools now. You know what, I understood when there were, how many? Yeah, just to give you an idea, 2000, 1991. Perfect, what a great omen. Oh god. Well, you can't think about that. I promised I was going to talk about the labor theory of value in my description for this video, so that is what we are going to do. I'm also going to put on some more music, because I don't like this silence. You know what? We've been listening to enough cool pop from the Soviet era. You know what? We need something a little bit, oh yeah. This is good. This is what we needed. Okay, I've got a crane there. Fuck. Oh wait, shit, can I cannot. Fuck. Well, there goes that. So, it looks like we're gonna need to build an oil facility. Alright. That's a lot of people moving in that I'm not inviting, by the way. I don't know what they're all moving in for. I have plenty of other empty places. They want culture. You've got access to a hospital, I'm sure. No school. Alright, fine. You know, I'll wait on it actually. Does, what I want to know is if a medical university covers that. What it covers is apparently a huge fucking area. Holy shit. Okay. Oof. And the headquarters are not much better. Cool, disco lights. It means that I'm not importing enough energy, but part of the problem with that is that it's happening because, I'll show you in a second, but my coal power is only producing at like a fraction of what it should be, which I don't understand, because it's full of people, plenty of them educated, and it's got full access to a total load of coal. It's got nothing to complain about, really. That's a good spot for a hospital. And to justify that, 1 or 2 more of these bad boys. I really need to do something about the whole you can't import asphalt thing. Maybe there's gotta be a way. Maybe I can import it directly from the customs house. Let us find out. Fuck. Of course not. Asphalt. I mean, it's probably not even one of the options. Nope. Only bitumen, which I can't afford. I mean, look. How is that draining down so fast? Fuel. Now electronics and clothes, meat. We gotta do something about the meat. I mean, I can do something about that, right? It's just grain. I can handle that. So I'll just build an offshoot. I mean, there's already pretty bad traffic here. How much does meat sell for? Oh shit. Meat is fine. That's a great option. I'll put the meat on the train along with the food. I'll add a refrigerator car to my trains. Speaking of that, where is my food train? Didn't get stuck, right? I don't see it. It looks pretty stuck. No, it's good actually. It's doing what it's supposed to. Well, alright, livestock farm it is. So, let's see here. Okay. Oh, should I do a distillery? I just need something valuable to export, so it's about 300, 200, about 300 as well. And this only requires 30 crops, and I get 6, so that's about 5. Sorry, 1/5. Alright, and then instead, if I go to a livestock farm that takes 10, produces 5 livestock, and 5 livestock, so that's 1/2, turns into about 1/2, so about 1/4. Shit, technically this is more efficient, but it's 2 fucking buildings, which take a bit of space. You know what? I'm gonna stick with the distillery for now. It's technically slightly less efficient, but it's still lucrative, and I can easily, you know, fit it into my current, yeah, pretty easily fit it into my current system. Maybe not. Okay. Well, I can do this. I'm going to change all of the cars from delivering directly to the food factory to delivering to the grain silo. I think that's fine. I think that works that way. Right. Should. Fuck. I mean, I made this pretty cramped, but obviously I can. Let me just make sure I can. Yeah, I'm just gonna build that out. All right. Okay, we're doing this. Distillery, here we come. Am I annoyed that I couldn't just directly link it up to my warehouse? Yeah. Yeah, that pissed me off. But, shit. There we go. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet. What is that? What does that require? Does that actually require anything? Just gravel. Oh, asphalt. Fuck. Alright. Asphalt is going to be pretty primary, it looks like. It seems to be involved in literally everything except for gravel roads. And even then, oh my god, I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, no, I know for a fact it's not in gravel roads, but still, you can't really use gravel roads for a lot of things. Oh, shit. Well, okay. A little bit redundant, but it gives us some options. No workers, no crops. Well, let's pause and tell these boys to, instead of going to the food factory, go there. Cancel the food factory. You, much the same. Instead of going there, you're gonna go here. You're gonna cancel that. Alright. That's 2 of them. Agro farm. Man, I'd set up a whole bunch of these. Okay. That's another one. Your grocery store, your agro farm. Alright. Yeah, both of you are just directly collecting grain from the fields. Alright, good. I don't think that's all of the grain trucks, but it's some of them. Damned right, it's from the very free People's Republic of something. But that should handle the crop situation. The next thing is people. You know, there's coming to be a lot of people coming in and out of this area. Let's see, can I even fit a small train station here. Just a tiny one. It looks like yes. There we go. This, by the way, is going to be a pain in the ass to set up, but you're going to get a good chance to see how you actually set up a good train system and switches and signals in this game. It's not that hard. It's different than some other ones, some other games, specifically different than like Transport Fever. Alright, there we go. Boom. Alright. Not too worried about you. I'll just have you work on that. You're also working on a different unfinished road, but I don't know where it is. It might honestly be asphalt or some stupid shit like that. So let's come here. Let's go back to, let's auto build from dollars. I have less of them, but at the same time I use less of them less frequently. And I have not commingled, which is in finance illegal. I commingled any rail and passenger rail and freight rail yet, so I'm excited to see how that turns out. There. So it looks like there's a pretty big gap in height between, yeah, I guess. Show wireframe. Oh, come on. That's not bad. I mean, that's bad, but I'm not asking about that, am I? Alright, there we go. Follow along. Crossover. Allow a passing lane here. Alright. So, you have to have the one where you want people to actually wait, the one where you want them to enter into the new lane, and the same on the other side. Got friends on the other side. Alright. Now that we've done that, we have to bite the real big bullet and link it up here, I think. Should we do that? Is that not a terrible idea? Well, first of all, we definitely want to building in the way. Oh. Just pulling it the wrong direction, I guess. We'll want to build that. It's a little connection. Just because, yeah, we are going to have to use this. Oh, wait, shit. Oh, I built it here. Wait. I set up a fueling station out there. Okay, sweet. So now I've got 2 connections to the fueling station. That's grand. Alright. Now, go in there. Yeah, I'll just connect it here. And worst comes to worst, it's not efficient, right? So it's not the worst possible thing. It's just pretty bad. Alright. You there? You there. Now what I'm hoping that means, I guess we'll see in a second, but now there should be sufficient space for multiple trains to be going on this track. Shit, I meant to use dollars for that. Because here's a problem, like there's no good decent cars to be using with dollars. What a waste. Okay. At least that's kind of cheap. 98. Oof. Actually, let me think. Let me just sell both of those at a loss. Great. 65, 60 kilometers. Why did I just do that? Fuck. This is why you can't be stupid when you're playing this game. But here, yeah, just because we're gonna have to facilitate quite a few different factories, do that, and then we'll end up here. Go. And I'm gonna follow along with him to see how that goes. Because obviously I want to make sure that there are no glaring problems with the signaling that are going to create a crisis later on. There's always problems when you try to refuel, which is why I made sure to add that whole extra refueling center. God, I'm bleeding cash. What is he waiting on? What? What is he waiting on? What is he waiting on? Very odd. Okay. Yeah, because only one of those is occupied. Normally when you see that, it means that the block of line that he's on, he was occupying himself. But in that case, I'm not sure what that means. Okay. Going on the merry way. Does he have no one? Why is he empty? Never mind. Okay. Goes there, goes there. He goes there. Good. Good. Bad. What are they waiting on? What is he waiting on? No bueno. Oh, let's see here. Boom. And booyah. That's what a smart kid does. They put signals where they belong. You know, where they literally fucking make sense. Alright, and footpaths wise, let's add you right there, my friend. You right there, right there. Shit. There and there. There and there. There and there. 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 Yeah, good. Everything's walkable from it now, which is a good sign. That's not a great sign. Where are you trying to go? You fucking drunk. You boozer. Oh, go back. So why was it getting lost? What couldn't it oh, turn that off. What couldn't it understand? But this, why are those one way? Oh, it's not. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Spoke too soon. Huh. I wonder what the fuck that was about. Alright, I'll start him. Oh, shit. Alright, you go fucking back. These two. There you go back. And you turn around. Stop wasting my time. So let's see here. Where was the problem coming from? Alright. So obviously, I'm going to delete that signal. If someone's over here, they should hold this entire block, because there's no way for you to hide out over here. Frankly, they should hold this too. Well, let's just try that. Cancel, turn yourself around, get started. Do what you need to do. Get going, be useful, be productive. Alright. And like, these guys get it. They know what they're doing. I still don't understand. Okay, so now I'm seeing wood there. People are working there now. That must have been the issue. I guess. I don't know what else it could have been. There's still wood being stored in there, but less of it. But you know, since I promised, the labor theory of value is a Marxist analysis for what? Why does it want to do that? You know, I doubted it when Colonel Failure said something about Alright, that can be two-way, but that should be one-way. How about that? Now, turn around. Okay. I don't know what the actual problem there was, but for some reason, this thing being here broke a lot of trains' minds. Alright, but the labor theory of value stipulates that the value of a commodity being something being exchanged on a market system, that a commodity, for example, is not actually being traded for its own inherent worth, but is rather standing in for the social value of the socially necessary labor time to create said object, that we, through fetishization, impart an object with the power, sort of like in the tradition of African or just pagan fetishistic religions, which gave items the spiritual or other power of the actual people of a village, that they imparted a separate power onto an object. And similarly, these commodities aren't being traded for their own utility, but rather, as long as they are of some social use, it's just a yes or no, then they can be exchanged on the market, where they will actually be traded for that socially necessary labor time. And that socially necessary labor time is an average of the productivity of the whole market of people producing that object. So obviously it only applies, this labor theory of value, to objects which are produced on a market that does not have a monopoly, where there are multiple options and there is not necessarily a scarcity. Essentially, think of it like this. Supply and demand explains some aspects of price fluctuations. But if supply and demand were wholeheartedly, totally true without any qualifiers, just they were the only thing that was true about price, then the price of an object that is being produced, as in the capitalist system, ad infinitum, and which exists in an abundance far beyond the total demand ever possible of the human race, would naturally see its price, what's the term? Approach zero. The limit of the price approach zero if you were to chart it out, right? And so the labor theory of value notices that, and it's sort of like calculus, where you're trying to find how much something changes over the course of an infinitely small point. How much is that car turning over the course of 0.000 seconds? It's like dividing by zero. You have to think of it differently because it stops working. It falls apart. And so with economics, this labor theory of value understands that there is an underlying value which is responsible for managing supply and demand, so that the market actually can function in reality. Where something can be produced and yet still also carry some sort of profitable margins. And so this labor theory of value notes that an object's value is separate from its price, value is still affected by both a combination of value and supply and demand. Demand can be affected by things like marketing. It can be affected by all the other things that classical economics notices, but that is not the sole factor in an object's price. Value is this sort of baseline that it modulates around. And so an object's value is based off of this average time of production, which is to say that normally, for example, if you start off with carpenters, each one of them is able to produce, a table, let's say, over the course of 10 hours. And so the socially necessary time, socially necessary labor, the labor time to produce, the average amount of time, labor time needed to make a table is 10 hours. So the value is, 10 labor hours to produce. However, that can obviously fluctuate as people find new ways to be more productive, because obviously if someone is able to produce an item that is worth 10 labor hours value-wise, that's quite valuable. But if they can produce them in, say, 5 hours, well, obviously they're making twice as much, because they're still making profit off of a value of a 10-hour long table, because that's the average, but they're actually producing twice the average amount of tables in half the time. Twice the amount of tables, or they're making the same amount of tables in half the time. And this gets also into how profit works, because in capitalism, profit is the socially necessary labor time, is what's the object is sold for, and the capitalist buys the labor power of the worker, right? So the worker, let's say, is a skilled craftsman, right? So he's worth, he's put in this much time to train his abilities to be a carpenter. He's pretty fucking good, right? So that labor time, that labor power is worth a certain amount of money, and he's compensated for that, usually. But even if he is well compensated for his labor power, that's different than what he actually gives, because instead of giving just his labor power, he actually gives his boss his labor over a certain amount of time. And that labor is worth more than his labor power. That difference between the two is profit. That's also exploitation, because he's doing something that makes more money, makes more value than he is returned. There is no reason for the boss to be there. He just owns the means of production. So, if the difference between the amount of labor to produce an object and the labor power is where profit comes from, then there are two ways the capitalist can make more profits generally. One, he can either lower the amount he pays his workers. Either that means that he can pay his workers less than the value of their labor power, which would be like underpaying them. In an obvious way, even in capitalists, exploitation, for example, if you're an artist and someone promises to, pay you back $10 for a painting that normally would, a commissioner would pay $100 for, that sort of level of exploitation. Either he can do that, or he can increase the productivity of his workers in order for them to sell more objects in a shorter amount of time than the socially average labor time. Or his last option is obviously to increase productivity so that he can lower the actual amount of labor power that he requires in order to get his goods. So, for example, outsourcing to unskilled labor with machinery, something that used to be made by craftsmen at home, because the difference between their labor power and the socially necessary labor time is vast compared to skilled craftsmen. But the problem is that the more that he outsources, the more that he increases productivity, and the more that he's able to make these gains for his own profit, he also affects the socially necessary labor time to produce that object as a whole, because he does not exist in a vacuum. It's all good and fun when you're making an object twice as fast as everyone else, the average, but then the average will start to change, and people will start to adopt your new production systems. Think about how, Henry Ford had established for himself a large moat in terms of his business by being able to mass produce cars far cheaper than anyone else by dramatically dramatically increasing the productivity of his factories below the socially necessary labor time for the production of cars. But then think about what happened after that. Everyone else caught on, everyone else adopted it, he lost his moat, and the value of cars, as a result, dropped. And the thing is, that is a tendency that is paradoxical to capitalism. In order for a capitalist to make more money individually, he must, therefore, constantly reduce the socially necessary labor time of the products that he makes, thus making them less profitable. And so there is a constant arms race between all of these different capitalists to get up, one over the other, to gain an advantage, to more mercilessly exploit, to more brutally achieve massive advances in technological progress, and establish more effective and productive and more efficient forms of production and manufacturing. But at the same time, that necessarily will, as a total end result, make them all less profitable as a whole per unit sold. So I don't mean to say that, you make a super large mega corporation and suddenly your super large mega corporation makes less than a mom and pop. I mean to say that if you look as a tendency between all forms of capitalist manufacturing, obviously the value of goods goes down over time, and more importantly, the rate of profit of all these corporations goes down over time, and they have to produce huge sums of products and goods and exploit so mercilessly in order to make the slimmest margins of profit. And those margins keep shrinking, so they have to go out and get, desperately beg the government for all sorts of subsidies. They need to desperately, change investments and laws to try to facilitate some way for them to just eke out a little bit more. And they're not starved for cash, but they're starved for future growth in terms of profits. They have to constantly change all of their industries. You know, think about it. There are a lot of industries out there that are still completely necessary to the basic functioning of our economy that are no longer in themselves profitable. And we take this as just being a sign of the flow of time. Companies need to adapt to changing technology. But it's not actually that simple, is it? Those technological companies will and are currently showing signs that they are subject to the same problems. That this dog chasing its own tail to try to find where profit went can't go on forever. And the only question is this going to lead to the next catastrophic capitalist crisis again for the second time in 2 decades? Before or after it has caused a cataclysmic disaster for humanity on Earth? And the answer to that is I'm not sure. And that's really the thing that makes the socialist project right now so deeply necessary and urgent. We are at the precipice of a moment right now where if we do not act right, swiftly, and achieve our goals soon, we could very certainly face the extinction of the human race right before, minutes before, capitalism faces its inevitable profitable failure. I mean, it's already technically there. Currently, capitalist enterprises are not actually making record profits. They are actually making record low profits per unit sold, relative to their production. And it is causing all sorts of crises. But the way that they have chosen to deal with that in the developed world is both to constantly try to export their labor to the third world and to make use of, obviously, imperialism and other such things. But the other way, the other truly desperate way that they've tried lately is begging for all sorts of loans and for the lowest interest rates in history. Negative real interest rates for over 10 years here in America alone, and for decades in Europe and Japan, and their economies have been fucking struggling as a result. You know, those negative real interest rates in here and there both are desperate signs showing us that we are actually facing really the profit death of capitalism. And sometimes it's called by other names. One name that I heard recently from a real something website was the energy cost of energy. No. You can call it by any name you want to. It is, in fact, really just the falling rate of profit. And that's really what we're looking at right now. The falling rate of profit has actually reached a point currently where the entire economic system of the West, which is really not as strong as people make it out to be or think it might be. For example, just as a little warning sign, currently, of the S&P 1500, over 20% of the companies on that particular, I think it's an ETF technically, are literally unable to make their interest payments. This level of debt is completely unprecedented, and should be a terrifying sign to anyone who is still desperately clinging on to the neoliberal dream. Think about, in the imperial core, we terrorized the entire third world. We ravaged so many economies and decimated so many places in the world, right? And out of that, what did we actually achieve? Most people cannot afford to actually own a house. They cannot afford to go to school. They cannot afford to go to the doctor. And they cannot afford to own a car. All of these things we believe that Americans can actually pay for with all this wealth that they've stolen from the rest of the world. Most people are totally in debt for. I don't know anyone who owns a house outright that they haven't owned for over less than 40 years. And even then, I don't know anyone who actually has owned a house for that long, and you're encouraged not to. You are encouraged instead to constantly trade it around on further debt. There is no basis to the supposed wealth of the West and capitalism. It is just the meager scraps that white Westerners have had to fight over, that was stolen from the most desperately poor people in the world. And it's truly pathetic, in fact, that we've reached this point in a lot of ways. But, where people are clinging on to the idea of terrorizing and committing genocide and just ruining the planet in order to hold on to these really just non-existent benefits. But we have reached it. People are really that desperate, that scared of, honestly, the lack of wealth they have. When I hear most of the people who don't know what communism is but are afraid of it, almost all of them basically are being told to describe in some form or another capitalism. They know that they're terrified of it. And they know that it's a problem, but they can't identify it. And in a large part, that's a failure, obviously, of the Western left. But that's also, when it comes to that, the Western left's failures. I think one of the other ones is that instead of providing a clear alternative for what we envision for communism, we instead just sort of leave it mysterious. People are actively discouraged from discussing, with other prospective comrades, what it would actually look like to have a people's revolution. And I think that's disastrous. We shouldn't just make vague utopian promises. I understand that just saying, oh, we'll have automated luxury gay space communism, you know, that's just a meme. However, you know, there is a lot that we should actively be selling about it. You know, honestly telling people, hey, look, you know, this is our goal. This is the sorts of things that we want to achieve. And then, you know, just like discuss in a very basic sense, like this is very specific sorts of ideas that we have for management. That's what our group would like. We'd like to set it up, you know, some sort of worker management that might look like this. However, obviously, you know, the whole point is that that would be for debate, discussion, elections as well, but just have some sort of proposals out there for, you know, what you want to build. And that's a key part also of building dual powers, that you need to have these proposals, something to, you know, sell to people other than the vague notion that, oh, we're going to fight for the socialist revolution. It's like, yeah, but what does that mean to people in real terms? You know, they need to know. They want to know. And the more vague and, you know, non-specific you make it, you know, they think that they're doing some sort of, like, they're making some sort of bold statement against utopianism by doing that. But honest to God, you know, you can't expect actual working class people to, like, they'll handle theory. They'll handle, you know, whatever terms you're gonna shove onto them. They can learn. But what they can't do is get a whole bunch of energy and give a shit about some sort of weird project that you can't define for them, and which you can't make into a real necessary step in something that's going to benefit their lives. All right? And the time is running out for, you know, people to realize that in a lot of senses. How the fuck did that happen? That one should be waiting still at the passing track area. That's not good. Is there still coal here? There's still coal. But less of it. That's not good. Causing that problem. I don't know if there is an implicit... I'm thinking there must be some sort of implicit block inside of the fuel loading. Yeah, that's gotta be it. Oh shit. Why didn't I think about that? Here we go. Alright. Anyway, when it comes to, you know, building your platform, don't try to patronize people. Don't try to think about the working class like they're not smart enough to understand theory. They're smart enough to fucking get theory. Alright, they're smart like you. And in fact, if you're not a member of the working class, fuck you. Get in line and start to actually, you know, understand the people that you're fighting for. Because that's got to be your first step, is not seeing yourself as separate from the working class. Because, first of all, God help you if you are, and you're trying to be a socialist. But, on top of that, you know, you should actually know, you know, what sort of world specifically you want to build, and that you are asking them to fight and or risk their lives for. And if you can't give them that, they're not going to waste their time learning theory. Alright? That's why theory sounds like mumbo jumbo to them. To people who are not communists. It's because no one for the past couple of years has been able to turn it into something they can relate to or want. No one's tried to tell them about, you know, what communists would actually fight for. And there are some groups, don't get me wrong, I'm making it sound like that doesn't exist. There are plenty of groups that do that, and they tend to do better, alright? But the groups that tend to do that very well also tend to be, tragically enough, more often than not, at least a little bit revisionist, you know? And that being the case, you know, maybe it's time for revolutionary parties to not just sort of notice that that's a common feature and really ask themselves, you know, is that a common feature amongst revisionist parties that are big because it's a revisionist thing to say? Or are those revisionist parties bigger than us because they say it? Because they're willing to say that sort of thing. And, you know, think about it. Revisionist parties usually have proposals that are actually a lot less popular with people, you know, which don't generally translate as cleanly into things that benefit their lives, because they aren't thinking, you know, of themselves as agents of the working class. They aren't members of the working class, you know. They are just simply agents of the bourgeois who happen to be espousing certain socialist policies. So if we socialists, revolutionary socialists, propose something instead that is revolutionary, that is directly, you know, getting at what the working class needs, then we're immediately going to have a leg up over them. We're immediately going to recruit better, be more efficient. It's as simple as that. Alright, now if you see here, something went pretty wrong with this stop. Someone tried to come down here. They got the okay for that light. And someone from down here got the okay for this light. And there are plenty of ways to deal with that, but the way I'm going to deal with that right now is that I'm going to add a second line right here. Oh my god, what a beautiful graphical glitch. Ugh. I didn't do it. Alright, there we go. Well, that's one way to get across the map. The fuck did I do? Alright, that is obviously just a graphical glitch. Wow, that's a pretty spectacular one though. I imagine, yeah. Land here is pretty fucked up. I'm gonna straighten it out. Alright, now concrete based railway. Add that there. Alright, I'm gonna delete that. I'm gonna see, what is it the wireframe tells me? I'm the wireframe whisperer. What is it saying to me? Alright, I can do that. Good. Now, if I place a semaphore there. Hopefully, if nothing else, we'll see. People at least use that. Maybe divert some traffic. But I think that's a pretty good natural stopping point. We've worked a little bit on traffic, and I think after I realized what I had done to my food train and why it was never working right, that we might have just dramatically improved our money. In fact, yeah. Oh yeah, we just made 15,000. And once we've done the booze, that's going to be an additional 30, I guess? 30,000? Depends on how much space it takes. So, but yeah. Good, good, good. Oh, I just want to see how far we've made it here. Missing crops? Are people not delivering crops there? Or is it just because it's getting fought over? Oh my god, why does that keep happening? Yeah, you go there. You do that. Where's the other one? You. Not you. You? I see. I think it's just because I added a stop in order to switch out which stop I went to. Alright, well. Hopefully. I guess we'll see in a second. Alright. Now I actually need to add some covered trucks to take that to... Oh shit. I need a cargo train station? I will. Is that an additional one? It is. Oh no, it's a warehouse. Oh, I know where I can put it. Duh. Don't be so stupid. Alright. Yeah, that's right. 2. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Load, unload, start. Well, there we go. That's our episode for today. Thank you very much for stopping by, and see you around next time. Bye.